And welcome to the 1988 Cheyenne Masters Bowling Tournament, being held at the Cheyenne Bowl-O-Rama. The Cheyenne Masters Tournament is sponsored by Plains A to Z Tire Company, Miller Lite, Bowl-O-Rama, and KGWN-TV 5. Today's program features the top 4 seeds in the men's tournament. And here's your hosts, Brian Olson and John Mason.
And hello everybody, I'm Brian Olson along with John Mason, and we are in the second week now of the Cheyenne Masters Bowling Tournament. Today the men get to go for a first prize of $700. We'd like to quickly congratulate our winner again last week on the ladies' side. Jackie Roberts pretty well conducted a clinic. What can we expect to see from the men this week, John?
Well, I think, Brian, we'll probably see higher scores. The men throw heavier balls. They get more revolutions. They're used to more tournament experience. They have higher averages. I think look for this to be a high-scoring session today. We have 2 right-handers and 2 left-handers, and it'll be interesting to see how they play.
Well, let's get set to bowl. Here are our opening round contestants. Bruce Jasperson, the 4th seed, and Jack Rhodes, the number 3 seed. Gentlemen, have a good match.
I guess I should point out here, Brian, that Jack Rhodes has made the TV show every year that we've had it. He has won the tournament 1 time and finished in the top 4 each time. Jack has been tough.
I don't know if you can say bowling is Jack Rhodes' life, but it shows on his biography that he started bowling at the age of 6 months. Not 6 years, but 6 months.
Well, that's a long time, because I know Jack, he's 38 years old now, so he's got experience on most everybody else in the field.
Jack's lived in Cheyenne for 7 years, comes from Loveland, Colorado originally, goes for his spare, and he makes it. Jack has a 300 game in his career. His high current average 200, and his highest average carried for an entire season 208, as we look now at Bruce Jasperson.
I should probably plug Bruce here, Brian. He made a real strong surge 2 weeks ago leading into the Final 4. He averaged 225 for his last 4 games and snuck into the finals.
Good solid opening for Bruce Jasperson.
And that's just how he did it. He threw a lot of strikes. When it got tough, he got going, and we should see a real good match here.
His high current average right now, 184, a high season average, 221. He's never bowled a 300, but boy, has he come close with a 299, and he's bowled a 298 twice.
And he's actually had 2 299s, and I think that if Bruce gets lined up here, he could easily throw half a dozen in a row. These guys are both lined up earlier in practice.
Leaves 1.
Crowded the ball, got a little ahead of it, pulled the ball in, went into the nose a little high, left the 4-pin. We saw a lot of those last week with the ladies, but the ladies usually won't trip as many 4-pins out. The men with a little more speed, a lot more revolutions on the ball, get a little more pin action.
You see the concentration, and no wonder. First prize, $700.
Good spare. And of course, in addition to that $700, Brian, we have a set of B.F. Goodrich radials, compliments of B.F. Goodrich and Plains A to Z Tire, and that value is worth over $400. So it's actually over $1,100 they're shooting for. Our tournament keeps growing.
Big tip of the hat to our sponsors, Orison Distributing, Plains A to Z, both very community-minded businesses, great folks, and we invite you to patronize them anytime you can. Tough one there for Jack and his...
Jack got the ball started too far outside there, eased up on the ball, turned it early, did a lot of things wrong, left the 3, 6, 9, 10. This is not an easy spare. He needs to get the ball out to the extreme right and have the ball finish hard enough to where he can get the 3-pin and the 9-pin both with the ball.
Key part of the match very early on here. He makes it.
He made that ball, Brian, because the ball was coming back so hard. A lot of revolutions on the ball and not much deflection. He's smiling a little. He knows he got a little lucky. That's not quite the textbook way to make it, but it certainly is a good way to make it because it counts.
And he'll take it. Absolutely. Once again, our terrific computerized scoring system here at Cheyenne's Bowl-O-Rama. Jack Rhodes, a big strike. He needed that one. He got it. Jack has a high series of 795, and Bruce Jasperson has a high series of 789.
Well, that would be great if they'd shoot their big games today on TV for everyone. I guess we're past that already, because the best that Bruce can get now is 280, and the best that Jack can get now is 266.
Bruce?
Bruce does not cross as many boards, Brian, you'll notice, as Jack does. He's not playing quite such an extreme outside angle. Keeps the ball a little tighter, but he's getting good revolution on the ball, and he is carrying well when he has good follow-through and good timing.
He has a 191.7 average coming into the tournament.
And he averaged 191 basically because he averaged 225 the last 4 games. He did it all in his last 4 games 2 weeks ago for the qualifying. It was a great ball there. He was a little outside, a little light. Ball was just turning so hard, he blew the 5 into the 7. Good revolutions, good ball.
Jack Rhodes up now. He is throwing a 16-pound ball. Jack's 38, 5'10", evenly matched in size with Bruce Jasperson.
Jack needs this double to stay up.
He gets it.
He got it. It wasn't pretty, but he got it. Situation is now, Jack has a 4-pin disadvantage. I should say Bruce is leading by 4 after 4 frames. Both players up on doubles through the 3rd and the 4th. Both players using urethane balls. Once again, the urethane is designed to skid a little differently, finish harder, less deflection. Ball's outside, coming hard. Leaves the 1-2-8, Brian.
What does he need to do now to make this spare?
Basically what he'll want to do is move a little bit right of where he normally lines up for the strike ball, possibly 4 to 6 boards to the right, use his strike line, and go right over into the Brooklyn side for the 1-2-8. And he did it. Perfect execution there. That was a big spare for him. Anytime you have a sleeper involved, it makes it a little more tough.
Jack averaged just over 215 to get this far. Good solid bowler is Bruce Jasperson.
Jack bowled very well on the Sunday of the qualifying. The reason he didn't end up as a higher seed is because everybody pumps up for Jack. Everybody bowled their best matches against Jack.
Big strike for Bruce Jasperson.
You'll see Bruce is very intense, takes a deep breath there, wants to keep the adrenaline in check, doesn't want to get too pumped up. Taking his time, wiping his ball off. You see a lot of the better bowlers usually, Brian, wipe the oil and dirt off the ball each time so they have a consistent rolling surface to meet the oil and the urethane on the lane.
Bruce Jasperson with a shot. Bruce, coming from Denver, Colorado, has lived in Cheyenne for 5 years. Worked for the State Fire Marshal's office.
Got a little fast with that ball, pulled the ball inside a little bit. It didn't come quite as hard through the oil. Left the 1-2-4. Now he needs to move a little to the right. Once again, 4 to 6 boards to the right. Use his strike line. Possibly slow down a little if he wants to use a speed adjustment. Let the ball cross over to the 1-2-4.
Bruce, the number 4 seed.
With an advantage right now of 14 pins through 4.
Great match so far. This opening round of the men's division of the Cheyenne Masters, coming to you from Bolorama.
We sure enjoy hosting this tournament every year, Brian. This is our 5th year for the tournament and 4th year that it's been televised, and we'd sure like to thank our sponsors and KGWN for making it possible.
And folks, this is one great facility. Jack Rhodes gets his strike again.
Great ball.
Great family facility, Bolorama. Bowling and the video games for the kids. Great restaurant, Diamond Lil's Lounge. Fun place to come to.
Well, thanks, Brian. We sure tried hard to improve it. It's put a lot of hard work and money into it in the last 4 years that we've owned it, and we have the largest junior program in the state now, and we sure welcome the families, and I know your family comes out, and we sure think that's great.
Jack Rhodes gets it again.
That was a great shot there. You saw Jack run that out to the right. He needed that strike to put pressure back onto Bruce, get back into the match. He's now within 4 pins. See if Bruce can answer the challenge.
He shot.
That was a great ball, Brian. You notice the ball was up about the 8 or 9 board. A little bit light, but got good mixing action off the sides, carried the strike. Punch it. Okay, here we have Bruce up on lane 5 for the 8th frame. He needs this strike to come back, stay ahead. Pulled that ball inside there, Brian. He left the 6-10. Now he's going to want to move to the left side of the approach. Make sure he gets as much angle as possible on the 6 pin so that he does not cherry the 6 off the 10. 8th frame. Still a very tight match, but he did open the door slightly there because Jack is on a double. A lot of concentration. Pulls the ball a little.
He gets it. He gets it. We apologize. We had a few microphone problems. If you couldn't quite hear me earlier in the match, we apologize for that. But our director, Pat Lewis, tells me everything is back in business. Certainly Jack Rhodes in business today so far.
Important shot. Once again, Brian, there you see that Jack starts the ball up outside further. He is outside of the 5 board at about board 2 or 3 there when he lays the ball down. He likes to play way outside. He throws a lot of speed. He gets the ball to hook well out there. And when Jack has that shot, he's pretty tough.
Real popular fellow in local bowling circles. And one of the guys who really makes the sport
He's
what it
not
is.
with me because he takes my money every week when I'm dumb enough to bet him. Seriously, Jack's a good friend. He's been a good bowler.
Boy, he is on a roll now, and he's feeling good.
Well, that's one of the things that has made Jack so tough is when he gets lined up, it is very common for him to string 5 or 6 strikes at a time. And when you've got a tight match and the ability to open up with 4 or 5, 6 in a row, it really buries the other guy. Puts the pressure on him.
Tell me, John, some of the bowlers use gloves, some nothing at all. Again, here, Bruce with the brace. What are the advantages or disadvantages of that equipment?
Great shot. We'll get back to that just a sec, Brian. That was a good ball for Bruce. He needed that strike. 9th frame, foundation frame. He is in a position to keep pressure on Jack and still win this match. He can go out with 237. Getting back to the wrist device, you'll see the wrist device there that Jack has on his arm. That is designed to allow the bowler to cup the hand. There's nothing in the palm to get in the way or to cause sweating. He can cup the ball as much as he wants and stay under the ball, get good strong wrist position, but it doesn't allow the ball, or the wrist, excuse me, to break back and to allow the fingers behind the ball pushing. It keeps them under the ball lifting. Good shot.
And it's working. It leads 2 on that shot.
I think Bruce is guilty there of not adjusting very well to lane 5. It's starting to hook a little more for him. In his last 3 shots, he's been up through the nose every time on lane 5. He just hasn't made that half board or board adjustment or adjusted the speed to get the ball out a little more on lane 5. It tends to finish a little harder.
Bruce, once again, the number 4 seed in the tournament. And he gets the spare. You know, when you reach this level of competition, of course, you hate to see anybody lose, but to make it to this final part of the cutoff is a great accomplishment. There's a lot of bowlers wish they were here today.
Oh, absolutely. We started off with 32 qualifiers, and that doesn't count the 130-some bowlers that started the qualifying. So these are the best 4 out of 130 that began it. So certainly they have achieved something.
Now, you folks with VCRs at home, you should have them rolling because this is a great clinic you're seeing here this afternoon, this opening round of the men's division of the Masters. Big strike from Bruce Jasperson.
Well, here's the situation we have now, Brian. Bruce is at 217. He's all done. And Jack is sitting at a 233 clip. Jack should win the match unless he throws a disastrous pin count or would foul and then fail to convert a spare.
The winner will take on Doug Slayton, the number 2 seed in the tournament. Jack Rhodes with the key ball. Little off the mark that time.
You'll see both of these guys are throwing the ball quite a bit harder than the ladies did also. Brian, they are approximately 4/10 to 5/10 of a second faster than the ladies, and they can get away with that only because they get more revolutions on the ball, and the speed helps hold the ball from hooking too early. It'll actually translate that these guys are throwing the ball probably between 18, 19, maybe 20 miles an hour.
And Jack Rhodes doing what he does best.
That's the winning shot right there. Jack wins this first one. He's got a 231 possible. It's a shame when somebody has to lose with a 217, but Bruce made a couple of critical errors on lane 5 on his first ball, and you can't do that against Jack.
I can imagine a fair amount of the fans watching today would love to have a 217 anytime.
Absolutely. And Bruce goes home with $150, so maybe it was all worthwhile for him.
Not bad for a Saturday afternoon.
And there it is, a 228, Brian, for Jack Rhodes, and he'll move on.
That's the opening match. Jack Rhodes, the winner. We will have more from Cheyenne's Bolorama right after this. Don't go away. And welcome back to Cheyenne Bolorama. Brian Olson along with John Mason. Great match coming up in the second round. Doug Slayton will be taking on Jack Rhodes. You know, they asked on the biography sheets for nicknames for these bowlers. Jack Rhodes didn't give one, but I think we can name him Thunder Rhodes.
Well, so far, I think, Brian, if he continues that 228 pace, he's going to be awful tough to beat. We have a right-hander versus a left-hander here. Let's have some fun and see what they can do.
They're ready. Let's go bowling. The handshake, Jack Rhodes and Doug Slayton. Doug Slayton's lived in Cheyenne for 3 years, comes from the great American Northwest, Spokane, Washington, and he's in computer maintenance for a living. So I guess if these wonderful automated electronic computerized squirt machines of yours ever break down, I've never seen them happen, but you got somebody to fix them here today.
Well, maybe. We've never tried Doug. He's actually with F.E. Warren out in their computer department.
His high season average, 203. Good strong bowler. Leaves a solid one left.
Got the 10-pin left. You see the ball come from an extreme outside angle there, Brian. Blew the 5-pin into the in front of the 10-pin, and that'll happen once in a while, but he's going to carry a lot of those.
Again, you were saying earlier that 5-pin is really the key for the...
Absolutely, because the 5-pin in a well-thrown ball is what determines whether the 5-pin is going to go back into the, in Doug's case, the 9-pin, or over into the 10-pin for the right-handers, over in the 7 or in the 8-pin. A well-thrown ball from the left side actually only touches the 1, 2, 5, and the 8.
Doug Slayton with a spare. No 300 games in his career. His high game, 279. Currently averaging 207. High series, 760. Looking at Jack Rhodes now, who just had a great opening match. 228, and he's averaging 215 to get this far in the tournament.
Well, I think this is going to be a match of strikes. I think the person that strings the most should win it.
Jack Rhodes' first ball. No surprise there. Jack remarkably calm. I have an idea under that pretty calm. He was bantering with the audience a little bit during the commercial break, but I have an idea that below the pretty calm exterior is pretty concentrated effort.
Well, I'm sure that he's intense, but at the same time, Brian, we have to consider that Jack has been on TV 3 different times, and that's an advantage for him.
Yeah, he's very familiar here. This is old home week for him. There's 2 in a row. Thunder Rhodes.
Excuse me, I think another thing that really helps Jack is he's got a lot of fan support here. The bowlers in Cheyenne have come to respect his abilities. He also was on the winning Calcutta team last week, and he has made a few people some money betting on him, and he's a popular guy, and he's just a good all-around guy to have on the show.
Early in the match, however, in this second round, again, first prize, $700 plus a great set of BF Goodrich tires from our sponsors, Plains A to Z, also Orison Distributors, and Miller Lite, some of the fine sponsors bringing this great tournament. It's really becoming a Cheyenne tradition. Off the mark there.
What we saw there is Doug went straight up the boards. He needs to swing the ball a little more outside from a basically right to left trajectory through the head so that the ball finishes hard in the back end. He just eased up on that ball and went a little straight and then hooked hard. He's got to keep his speed up and get the ball out to the left.
Doug's the tallest of all the final group of contestants in this year's Master. It's 6'1", weighing in at a trim 185, and he's looking for that magic solution to find the strike zone.
Doug's in great shape, and he has a textbook delivery. He's a great person to watch and learn from. Good shot there.
Split the uprights.
Almost went right between the 2-7. That's a very, very unusual shot, but you do see people that can hook the ball as much as Doug does in the back end, go through those once in a while without touching either of them.
Doug's tournament average just a little over 214. All top bowlers in the Cheyenne area. He
bowled very well last week to get into the tournament. Let's watch Doug's delivery here, if we would, Brian. We have a good camera angle here from this side. You see he holds the ball with his hand under it, the firm cupped wrist position. Now watch how low he gets and his great follow through.
Pays off that time.
Absolutely textbook finish. Doug is one of the best bowlers to watch that any amateur could ever hope to emulate. If you want to learn how to bowl, that's a good way to do it right there, folks.
It's a textbook example. Here's another fella who knows how to get the ball down there.
Okay, Jack's got the first two. Needs this one to throw a little extra pressure on Doug.
That's 3 in a row. How does Jack's style, he's a little shorter, more compact, how does his delivery differ from a fellow like Doug Slayton?
Well, you'll notice that they both are playing extreme outside angles. Of course, one being right-handed, one being left-handed. You have different lane conditions that you're actually bowling on, Brian. The left side has a lot less traffic. It's a smoother surface. The ball is in contact with the lane more. The right-handers usually have to do more to get the ball to hook as much. Jack turns the ball very well at full release.
4 in a row for Jack Rhodes. Talk about textbook, you're seeing it there.
Well, Jack got a lucky break there in the third frame. He got the ball to cross over Brooklyn. Once again, he's going to get away with that once in a while. He likes to play way outside. There's not much oil out there. And if he does slow up or pull the ball slightly, which are two things that he does from time to time, he gets away with the mistake. He got a lucky break. He knows it, but that's part of the way he plays.
Let's talk again, as we did last week with the ladies tournament, the importance of speed versus revolutions on the ball's path down the lane.
Well, what we really have to look at there, Brian, is we have to look at the skid-hook relationship. Now watch Doug's ball sliding.
Whoa.
You know, that's the wrong time to point that out. That's a bad break for Doug. Of course, once again, that's something that we see. It's a curse of the outside line. When you are playing out at the 1, 2, 3 board and you miss just a board or two, you are going to end up in the channel sometimes. I don't think that'll bother Doug that much. I think he'll be able to come back here and still be in this match. What we want to look at, though, for the skid-hook relationship, and this is something that the average bowler needs to learn to watch of their own game. They need to see how far the ball goes down the lane before it actually starts to break. That's what we call the break point. And then we need to see the angle at which the ball enters the pocket, and that's the entry angle.
Ooh. Almost repeated his first shot, which was disastrous. What's the problem there in those last two shots, John?
Well, I think if I can guess from Doug's point of view, over on lane 6, the last time he was there, he didn't get the ball out far enough. It came into the head pin high and left the split. That time he wanted to try to get the ball further out, and I respect him for the fact that his second ball, he still trusted it. He still got it out there on that 1-2 board where he was trying. He just knows now that that's not quite the line. He's going to have to move a little on that lane.
Key shot for Doug Slayton early in the match. There's our winner from last week.
There's Jackie Roberts cheering on her friend Doug Slayton. And that is Jack Rhodes' wife right behind Doug's right shoulder in the blue dress there, a very pretty lady, sitting next to my wife.
Pretty lady as well, sir.
Thank you.
Is that the brains of the operation?
That is. Yep. She keeps me out of trouble.
Not going well right now for Doug Slayton. Jack Rhodes very, very much in control of the match. 4 strikes in a row to open. Can't do any better than that.
Situation right now, Brian, is Doug is sitting on a 169 pace. Jack is sitting on a 229 pace. If Doug doesn't start throwing strikes or Jack doesn't run into a freight train, Doug is in trouble.
Jack Rhodes going for number 5. Not this time.
But you'll notice he almost got lucky there. Once again, it was a crossover. He's had two bad balls in a row over on that lane, Brian, and he's gotten away with one of them, which was in the middle of a 4-bagger. So that was a 21-pin advantage as compared to leaving the single pin that he did this time.
As we saw last week with the ladies, the pins gave some interesting breaks and some interesting matches.
Well, that's always true, and it's based on the shape of the bowling pin. When you have two round objects hitting each other, you always have some unpredictable results.
Jack Rhodes with the spare. You just saw that shot of Doug Slayton. There he is again. Not feeling really good right now, but he's not the kind of guy to give up.
I think Doug is down in the dumps right now. He's made a couple of mistakes, and all of a sudden Jack got a lucky break, and he's jumped out on a big lead. I don't know that Doug is out of this match, but he's got to regroup mentally. He's got to forget what Jack's doing. He's got to execute.
It's important to note again, as we mentioned earlier, Jack Rhodes, another strike. Cheyenne Masters is home. He's very comfortable in front of the cameras and the lights. This is a different environment for the bowlers who haven't done it before.
I think so, and one of the things that also happens, of course, Brian, we've talked about before, is that the television lights will tend to heat up the lane surface, and it will tend to dissipate the oil, and the oil will move a little faster, and the bowlers aren't used to having to adjust quite as much. And that very well could be something that Doug is having trouble with, because they practiced on these lanes earlier, and they haven't bowled on them for a little while.
Just again off the mark.
And once again, you saw there he was in between. He was a little lighter than what he was 2 frames ago on this lane when he left the split, but he was certainly a little more into the head pin than he was the last frame when he hung it out there and missed the head pin after the disastrous gutter ball.
Again, you see the great gallery we have for this tournament. Every year you get a few. I don't know how you jam all these people in here. There's a lot of folks down in Bolorama watching a great tournament.
Well, we'd like to thank Cheyenne Central High School for loaning us their bleachers on that. That's courtesy of Cheyenne Central. That is why we can get all these people in here.
You're going to need more bleachers next year. It's standing room only here, folks. It really is. It is full.
Well, and I think one of the reasons for that is, of course, we have that great support of Miller Lite and the 25-cent draft beer courtesy of Orson Distributing, and that certainly is a factor helping everyone enjoy the matches a little bit more.
Doug Slayton once again, things not going really well, of course, when you're bowling against a fellow like Jack Rhodes. That's been the kind of afternoon it's been for Doug Slayton.
Doug is just not getting consistent reaction, and I don't know whether he's not playing the zone on the lane correctly or whether he is just not executing correctly, but he's getting one ball to jump and the next ball stays out. It could be that he's lined up in the wrong area on the lane. Most left-handers like to play extremely outside, and I would guess, in what I know being the condition down there, that he probably would do better if he moved his feet a little more to the right and got a little more inside with the ball through the heads.
Close but no cigar on that shot. Jack Rhodes now very, very much in control. Has so far bowled 5 strikes and just 1 spare.
At this point in time, Ryan, it's going to be a disaster for Jack to lose, and Doug would have to strike out. I don't see a way it's going to happen. There's approximately a 70-pin advantage for Jack right now.
Jack Rhodes won his first game in the tournament 228 and maintaining his consistency. This is a man who has a 300 game in his career, averaging around 200, his high average for a season. Once again, 208. And you wonder how he get that good? Like Jack, he started out at the age of 6 months, and he's a big, tough guy, so I believe him.
Looking down the road, I know that Jack is concerned about his problems he's having on lane 6. This is 3 times in a row now he's gone over to the Brooklyn side. He's got to adjust. He's got to move a little left with the feet or speed the ball up. If he doesn't do that, he's going to run into trouble on the next match.
The winner here takes on the top seed, Bob Toth, $700 and a lot of great merchandise on the line.
I think there, Brian, is an example of Jack just letting up. There's no pressure anymore. The match is over. It's hard to keep your mental toughness and your concentration when you've got a guy down 60, 70 pins. You tend to ease up a little bit, and he's starting to think about lane 6, and he's just got to regroup here and put on a good finish to intimidate Bob Toth a little bit.
And Jack goes for 2 and gets him. Leaves 1, but still very much in control now.
Well, Doug has 3 frames left. It would be nice if Doug could get lined up and bowl well these last 3 frames, just so he ends on a positive note and he knows that it wasn't a real bad finish. It'll give him a lot of confidence for his next time out.
Doug's averaging 207 so far this season. He is a great bowler, and he gets one there.
That was the adjustment right there, Brian, that we had talked about. You'll notice he moved his feet right. He got the ball to the left more on the initial portion of the lane through the heads, and it was able to slide a little more, and it still finished very hard.
You can see the effects of television lights. On the downside of television, we need a lot of light to get these pictures to you. Pat Lewis and the Channel 5 production crew doing a great job today. But for the average bowler, the first time under the lights, it's a different experience.
Absolutely. Another thing we're seeing here with Brian today, with Doug today, Brian, is that his speed is varying some. I've got a stopwatch on some of the bowlers from time to time, and Doug is varying as much as 2 to 3 tenths of a second from the time the ball is laid down on the lane until it makes contact with the pins. And that's going to change your skid hook reaction, and it's going to change the amount of finish that the ball has on the end of the lane. So he's just not as sharp today as he usually is.
Getting the spare, and how often do you see in a tough match like this, maybe a bowler like Doug having a tough afternoon, then he'll probably go out next week and bowl a 250, a 260.
Oh, absolutely, and if Doug was to happen to get into the next game, there's nothing that said he wouldn't bowl a 250 next game. He's got a very solid fundamental game. Once again, he's probably the best textbook performer in Cheyenne. If you want to learn how to bowl, watch Doug Slayton.
Do you have his phone number handy? Jack leaving a tough one.
Well, he's still lining up wrong on lane 6. He still got the ball hooking early, went through the nose, the 4, 6, 7, 10. But that was the beginning of an adjustment there. He moved a little bit to accommodate the 3 bad shots in a row before on that lane. He just didn't move far enough.
What's the percentage on this shot, John? Last week we saw some pretty interesting spares picked up. Is that a 1 in 10, 1 in 15?
I'd say the 4, 6, 7, 10, Brian, for the average bowler is once or twice in a lifetime. It's really a very difficult split, and it's really just a lucky shot. You have to either carry a pin out of the corner of the kickback in the back of the pin spotter, or you have to barely trip the 4 or the 6 into the other and get a lucky bounce and a lucky break.
So once or twice in a lifetime, that means I've got once or twice to get that shot yet, because I haven't made it yet.
There you go.
I think Jack might be experimenting a little bit at all here in preparation for the next match, just trying a few things.
Well, for his sake, I hope he is, because if he isn't, he's in trouble, because his performance here is sadly lacking in the last 3 or 4 frames. He's getting the ball too straight up the boards. He needs to move in a little to the left, similar to what Doug needed to do to the right, and he needs to swing the ball a little more through the heads.
Again, Jack Rhodes continuing to be just a little off the mark, the number 3 seed in the tournament. He will be going up against Bob Toth in the championship round, and a lot of money and a lot of great merchandise on the line.
He gets this spare, it's 203. Some good sportsmanship on Doug's part. He shakes hand. Jack and Doug have bowled several team events together, and they've bowled on a league together as teammates, so they're pretty good friends, and they bowl a lot together.
Once again, something we talked about with the ladies' match, you know, in the warm-up sessions with these bowlers, and they have come a long way, and they've got to have a strong competitive edge to get this far. Yet in the warm-up shots, exchanging jokes, bantering about, it's no different than a league night or anything else. These guys are having fun.
I think that's one of the things in my mind, Brian, that's always kept me involved in bowling. I think that bowlers are the greatest people. It's a real cross-section of the American public. We've got everything from bank presidents on down, and it's just a great place for people to meet.
And it's a sport that the whole family certainly can participate in. There's not many you can do that, I know, as far as the Olsen family. That's one thing we can do together. Jack Rhodes, the winner. He advances to the championship round. And we will have more of the Cheyenne Masters right after this. Stay with us. Welcome back. Brian Olsen here along with John Mason. John, a battle of the lefties for a lot of money.
Well, one left-hander, one right-hander. Jack Rhodes, of course, coming off 2 wins, bowling against Bob Toth. Bob was the number 1 seed in the tournament. Jack just beat Doug Slayton, another left-hander. Let's see if he can make it 2 in a row.
They're ready. A lot of money on the line. $700 plus a lot of prizes. Jack Rhodes in the previous match had a great opening but faltered towards the end.
Started to struggle a little, Brian, and I think this first couple frames is going to be critical. He has got to come out of the gate with a good execution and keep the ball right. Let's see what he can do.
Jack Rhodes' first shot. Still a little off the mark.
Yes, he's still getting the ball a little too far outside early. It's coming up hard on him, and he's leaving 6'10", trying to get up into the nose. He's got to get that smoothed out or he's going to get himself in trouble. He knows it.
Jack, a veteran of the Cheyenne Masters. This is his second home. He picks up the spare. Let's compare and contrast the different styles between Jack Rhodes and Bob Toth.
Well, one of the biggest differences now here between these two bowlers is the speed difference. You'll see that Bob takes about 2.4, 2.5 seconds from the time the ball hits the lane till it makes contact with the pins. Jack, on the other hand, is around 2 seconds. Doug Slayton was also around 2 seconds. So Bob throws the ball quite a bit slower, and it does make a difference on how hard the ball will finish in the back end.
Here's his first shot. And a good one it is, a strike. Bob has seen a lot of those in his career. His highest sanctioned game is 299. He has bowled 300 games, although those were unsanctioned. His average so far this season, 188, and his high average, 198. He is a diesel mechanic, comes from Casper, has lived in Cheyenne for 2 years, also was a former bowling lane mechanic. So if you ever break something, you can have him fix it.
Yeah, Bob's a pretty good friend. He came down from Casper. That's where I got to know him. He worked at El Marco Lanes in Casper for several years.
His high series average, 767. A little wiggle, but not enough.
Tough 7-pin there. He really wanted that one because if he can come out of the box and put a lot of pressure on Jack, it makes Jack press, and it's a little harder for him to catch up, obviously. You'll notice that ball got very, very wide, clear out to about the 2 board before it came back very late. That's due to the slow speed, and you'll notice that Bob is using a harder shelled, a little lighter ball, 15 pounds.
Bob started bowling relatively late in his life, age 17, and just misses, and that is a heartbreaker.
His face said it all. That was a drastic error, and he knew it. It's early in the match. It's not over, but those are the types of things that you look back on afterwards when you lose by 10.
Again, a lot of money on the line, $700 for the winner, plus a lot of great merchandise, including a beautiful set of tires from Goodrich A to Z Tire, one of our sponsors, along with Orison Distributing, as we see Jack Rhodes. And he gets it.
It was a big ball for Jack. That was the first time on lane 6 in the last 5-6 shots on that lane that he's got the ball out and let it finish into the pocket. And of course, Bob opening up with that single pin air gave Jack a little chance there, and Jack tends to have a little killer instinct there.
Again, the keyboard of this just tremendous computerized scoring system, and for coming out and bowling, if you don't like paperwork, this is the place to bowl because the computer does the work for you.
That's right.
Jack doubles up.
Another big shot there for Jack. That's a critical double. Now he jumps on Bob with over a 20-pin lead.
Notice any improvement adjustments that Jack has made to come back?
I'm sorry, what, Brian?
Have you noticed any improvement or adjustments that Jack has made? He'd faltered there towards the end of the last match, opened up a little shaky, but now has come by with 2 strikes.
His timing's a little better. He's getting through the ball a little better. He's getting, his feet have slowed down just slightly. He's got a little freer swing. He's getting the shoulder up a little firmer. He's not letting it drop, and basically just getting through the ball better.
Bob knew it about halfway down the lane that wasn't going to happen.
He was a little slow, a little tentative, I think, on that shot. Bob doesn't have a lot of speed on the ball anyway, and if he slows up with the revolutions that he does put on the ball, sometimes it'll jump real hard on the back end for him. His speed is a critical part of his game. He's got to keep his speed consistent.
Very important pickup early in the match for Bob Toth.
Well, he needed that one. He missed it on the lane 5, the same spare, and he needed to build his confidence. He knows he can make that. He leaves it a lot, and he makes it a lot.
Bob tells us on his biography that he doesn't mind being called Bob or Bobby, but he said, "I hate lefty."
Maybe that's why I call him that a lot. A lot of concentration there. Bob needs to get a little string started here. Once again, Brian, the ball just jumped a little hard on him, left the 2-4-7. He didn't give the ball quite as much room as he had in the first frame on that lane. Excuse me, on the second frame on that lane when he left the 7-pin on a good pocket split, or a good pocket shot.
That's happened to me a whole bunch of times, so I can definitely say I know the feeling.
2 costly errors there in a row. What Bob probably should have done is moved further to the right and decreased that chop angle on the 2 off the 4-7. You need to get clear right and throw the ball as straight as you can at that.
Still very early in the match, but Jack Rhodes here now very much in position to quickly take charge. And shots like that will do it. 3 in a row now for Jack Rhodes.
Well, I think it's safe to say that Jack is going to have another easy match here unless something changes drastically. Once again, he's got a 50-pin lead. We're only in the 5th frame. You can't ask for it any easier. You can see his wife Linda smiling a little easier back there. You just have to wait and see, but if he throws another one here, 60-pin lead, that's the same position he was with Doug.
In the tournament leading up to today, Jack again averaged 215, and he almost, luck of the gods with him on that one.
Well, you saw him run that shot out. He's a little more relaxed now, and he stroked through that ball a little freer. His arm swing was freer. Got the ball way out, but it came real good, and it blew the 5 off the sideboard into the 7. Almost left the 7-10, but it would have been a blowout 7-10, which means that he threw the ball well. It just finished very late, very hard.
Have you ever seen anybody make a 7-10?
One time.
Well, Jack Rhodes didn't have to worry about that. He just had to pick up the 10, and he did that very nicely. And again, he's very much in control of the match right now, but Bob can still get back into it.
Bob's got enough frames left, but he's got to start a string. His confidence has got to come back in the next couple of frames. He can't wait until the 8th or 9th frame. There isn't going to be enough time.
Now's the time to do it, because it's important to note at the end of the second match, although Jack won it, he had some problems. He struggled in the second half.
That's right. That was a better ball for Bob there, Brian, but that's one of the things that's a trademark of Bob's game. He tends to play that soft shot. He gets the head pin coming off the sideboard, kicks out the 5, 6, 10. In this center, we see a lot of the mixers that do carry. In other centers, it doesn't carry as well.
Great shot of the Rhodes family there. Bob Toth again going for the spare. He averaged 198.5 to get this far, and he picks it up. Hanging on.
In talking about the automatic scorers, Brian, earlier, one of the things that we found is it's really opened up bowling to more of the public. We see that we live in a high-tech world, and a lot more people out there in the general public that have never bowled in a league, have never learned to keep score. They like to come in here because they don't have to worry about who has to sit at the score table and keep score, and does anybody in the group know how. And it just lets everyone join the fun, and it's probably the best thing we've ever done.
It is a terrific system, and having used it myself several times, there is nothing to operating it. He needed that strike.
Big strike there.
For Bob.
Big strike for Bob. As long as it's not the only one in the string. He's got to make that the beginning of a little string here. If Jack gets a little overconfident, starts easing up on the ball like he did the last game, we could still have a match here. A lot of concentration in the eyes. You'll see Jack holds the ball up high, gets a good arm swing. Good ball.
Jack Rhodes answers one strike with another. Remaining very much in control of this championship round. The Cheyenne Masters Bowling Tournament coming to you from the beautiful Cheyenne Bowl-orama.
Situation now, Brian, is both bowlers have completed 6 frames. They both have a strike up in the 6th. The difference is strictly in the numbers. Bob has 73, Jack has 119. That's a 46-pin advantage for Jack.
Leaves a solid 10. Nope.
Wasn't solid, but it didn't go down either. Got the messenger coming over, but it was in slow motion.
Yeah.
Okay, just a solid spare here keeps basically Jack without any problems, but he can't afford yet to make any crucial mistakes and give Bob a shot in the arm.
Once again, it's a tip of the hat to the Channel 5 production crew. Those double shots you're seeing, Pat Lewis and the folks doing a great job today. Well, Bob needs another strike.
He's up in the 7th frame. He's still got room for 6 more strikes.
He's going to need all of them, I think.
Well, that would give him a 220 pace. Jack is at a 219 pace now. So Bob's not out of this. If he throws a couple of strikes here, he's right in it.
Pretty shot. He needed it. He got it.
That was a better ball. He had a little more speed on that ball, Brian, and the ball held. It didn't go quite so wide. It held a little tighter line. It went a little further down the lane before it broke, and when it did break, maximized the inertia off the ball, and it carried real hard. Didn't jump and cross as many boards.
And once again, the great crowd here at the Bowl-O-Rama, very appreciative of the efforts of all the bowlers, both this week and last week.
I think this is a pretty knowledgeable crowd we get, Brian. Most of these people are pretty avid bowlers. We have a lot of the officers of the Men's and Women's Bowling Association, as well as the avid bowlers in town. They know what it takes to do this.
He's on a roll now. You talked about the officers of the various leagues, and you know, they remain the true unsung heroes of league bowling.
Absolutely.
Week in, week out, they keep things organized and they make it fun for a lot of people.
Absolutely, and without them it would be very difficult. ABC and WIBC membership here in Cheyenne is well over 4,000 people, and to compare that, for example, Brian, that there's about 2,500 people that play softball and about 4,000 that bowl in sanctioned leagues.
Jack Rhodes comes back with a strike. He is not giving an inch now.
Well, I think he hears Bob knocking on his back door there. He needs a strike here in the 9th to keep Bob in line. Right now we have Bob with a turkey up. That's a 3-bagger. They are both beginning their 9th frame. Bob has 73 in the 5th, but he's got 103 in the 6th and a 133 possibly in the 7th. He's only 26 down now.
You'll see it in his eyes. He got it.
You could see the intensity that Jack had on that shot. He needed that ball. He got the ball out. A lot of speed on that ball. That was under 2 seconds from the time it left his hand until the time it hit the head pin. That's fast. We don't recommend that for the average amateur bowler because they don't get the revolutions on the ball and it doesn't do them any good. The pins rattle around for Jack and they go straight up in the air for the amateur. That revolutions is a prerequisite to speed. Now let's see if Bob can come back in the 9th.
Still looking to finish out with a strong game.
It's close. You saw it there, Brian. He eased up on the ball. He came over the ball a little bit, up the side and over the top of the ball with his left hand. He just didn't get the ball extended down the lane far enough. It hooked early on him and it wouldn't hold. That pretty much spells the end of it.
Looking like Jack Rhodes will be the champion, and we had a, looks like we'll have a Jack this week. We had a Jackie last week.
I don't know about you, but I'm changing my name.
I think I might too. I've tried just about everything else to get my game going, and I've failed miserably so far. Bob looking now to finish up, and again, all of those here, the finalists this week and last week, certainly can hold their heads very, very high. Appreciative crowd. They've had to beat a lot of people to get here.
They've done well, and I think we're seeing an upsurge in interest in competitive bowling, Brian. One of the things that's helping that, of course, is the Olympic movement. Bowling for the first time will be an exhibition sport in Seoul, Korea in September.
And this tournament here in Cheyenne, from its very start a few years ago, has grown in leaps and bounds and is a major tournament now in the state of Wyoming.
It certainly is. That was a good ball for Bob. It just, he had that mental lapse in the 6th, lane 6 in the 9th frame, or he'd be right in this thing. But he can still end with respectability. He's thrown 4 out of his last 5 balls have been strikes, and there's nothing wrong with that. Bob's a good bowler, and he's bowled well in this tournament to get here. He was the #1 seed. You can't take that away from him.
Would have liked to finish off with a strike, but he's got a smile on his face.
Well, he's going to end up with probably a 192 game, and he has to settle for $410, but that's not all bad when that's what you get for losing.
I'll take a 192 and $400 any day of the week, my friend.
There it is. It's a Traditional handshake.
And here's our champion, the Cheyenne Masters Bowling Tournament, and he wants to finish with a flourish.
Absolutely. Jack would like to go out here. He can shoot a 249 game if he goes all the way, and he's going to give it his best shot. Still concentration in those eyes.
You can see that intensity. That is the mark of a champion. Doesn't get it. There's his wife. Now she should be smiling.
She should smile. Linda, smile. There's $700 coming your way. New tires for your car.
Bank opens up on Monday. They'll be, like I say, driving up with new tires and a nice deposit.
There you go. Linda's quite a bowler in her own right. We need to state that she won the handicap division of the ladies division of the Cheyenne Masters.
Jack Rhodes with a spare. The Rhodes family looking on.
There's a little smile.
Again, those tires we talking about from BF Goodrich and Plains A to Z Tire. Again, thanks to Orison Distributing and Miller Lite, the sponsors that make these tournaments happen.
There it is, Brian. 223, and Jack Rhodes is a 1988 champion.
We'll be handing out the checks right after the break. Stay with us. Much more to come from Cheyenne Bolorama. We have a minute left to the victors go with the spoils. Let me step out of the way. First of all, hand this check to our handicap champion, Jeff Field, $300. We got more for you, sir. Congratulations. John Mason. And the big champion, Jack Rhodes. Great series, Jack. Congratulations. Your lovely wife. You're getting $700. Great set of tires. On behalf of everybody here at Bolorama, our sponsors, Orison Distributing and Plains A to Z, it's been a great tournament. So long from Cheyenne's Bolorama.
The Cheyenne Masters Bowling Tournament has been brought to you by Plains A to Z Tire Company, Miller Lite, and Orison Distributing, Bolorama, and KGWN-TV 5.